Ever wish you could send one line and instantly make a guy melt? Turns out there's an art to it, a set of hypnotize phrases that tap into something real. Today, I'm teaching you 4 of them, because how you say things matters more than what you say. Phrase number 1. I don't know how you do it, but there's something quietly powerful about being truly seen. Not for the obvious stuff, not for his smile or the way he always texts back with a perfectly timed joke, but for the subtle genius in how he handles pressure. The way he somehow keeps his cool when everything around him is falling apart. That's where this phrase shines. When you say, I don't know how you do it, but you make organizing chaos look effortless, you're doing more than complimenting him. You're wrapping genuine attention inside admiration. It's not surface level. It's not about charm or wit. It's about noticing the way he moves through his world and reflecting that back to him in a way that makes him pause. Most people don't give men that kind of recognition. They're expected to be composed, reliable, strong, but nobody really stops to acknowledge what it actually takes to show up like that, especially on the hard days. So when you text something like that, it hits differently. It sticks. It might sound simple, but it creates a ripple. You're no longer just someone he talks to. You become the person who sees him, not for who he performs to be, but for who he actually is when no one's watching. Deborah swears by this one. She told me there was a moment when her partner had been juggling back-to-back meetings, putting out fires at work, helping his sister with her move, and somehow still showed up for dinner like he wasn't burning out. She watched him navigate it all, and later that night, she sent that exact phrase, just one sentence. He read it. Then he called her, not texted, called, just to say thank you. And that's the magic. Words like that don't just flatter, they create space. Suddenly he feels safe, curious, open, and that's when real connection starts to deepen. When someone makes him feel like more than just useful. When someone reflects back his quiet strength, not his Instagram highlight reel. He might respond with something playful like, "You think I've got it together? You should have seen my inbox." Or he might drop his guard completely and say something vulnerable. Either way, that phrase opens a door. And what happens after that is where your connection starts to really live. So yeah, it's just a sentence, but the right words, from the right person, said at the right time, that's not just a text, that's a memory. Phrase number 2, only you could make us feel like Asal. This one's the quiet showstopper, the subtle masterpiece that sneaks into his memory and stays there long after the notification disappears. Deborah calls it intimate personalization, but I like to think of it as emotional fingerprinting. You're not just saying he's great, you're saying he's specifically great in a way that only he could be. Like this phrase, only you could make a rainy Wednesday morning feel like an adventure. Now let's slow that down and really sit with it, because there's a lot happening in just one line. You're telling him that what he brought to that moment, whether it was his humor, his calm, his weird obsession with finding the best coffee in the rain, that changed how the day felt for you. You didn't say, "You're funny," or "You're always nice to me." You said, "You changed the way I experienced something." That's personal. That's emotional impact. What makes this phrase so sticky is how grounded it is in reality. It's not dramatic. It's not over the top. It doesn't scream for attention. It whispers, but it lingers. And because it's wrapped around something ordinary, a rainy day, a Wednesday, a moment that most people would forget, it hits harder. It's saying, that forgettable thing, it became unforgettable because of you. And here's the real beauty. This phrase leaves space for imagination. He starts wondering what it is about him that brought that spark into your day. He doesn't just remember the compliment, he remembers why you said it. It lingers like the last lines of a favorite song, looping gently in the background of his thoughts. Use it after a shared moment, or even out of the blue when a memory hits you. Don't worry about being too poetic, just be specific. The more grounded it is in reality, the more real it feels. Only you could make a trip to the hardware store feel like a mini road trip, or only you could turn a boring Tuesday night into a full-blown comedy show. You're not praising the activity, you're praising the effect he has. And whether he admits it or not, he's going to think about that. Every time it rains, every time someone complains about a gloomy day, boom, he's back in that memory loop with you. That kind of message doesn't just make him smile, it makes him feel essential. And that's powerful. Phrase number 3, if I'm really honest, I wish you us. This is where things get beautifully human, where words stop being polished and perfect and start feeling like a quiet truth. A simple sentence like, if I'm really honest, I wish you were here to see this sunset with me, can carry more emotional weight than a paragraph. And it's not because it's poetic, it's because it's honest. It's a soft reveal, a peek behind the curtain, and for someone on the receiving end, it feels like being let into your world in the most natural way. There's a kind of magic in the phrase, "I wish you were here." Not because it's romantic in the Hollywood sense, but because it paints a picture. You're not just telling him you like him. You're telling him that something beautiful happened, and your instinct was to want him in it. That's not flattery. That's emotional presence. What makes it work is the balance. It's desire without pressure, vulnerability without dependency. You're not throwing out a lifeline. You're holding open a door. You're saying, "This moment is lovely, and it would be even lovelier with you." That's a completely different energy than saying, "I miss you. Where are you? Why aren't you replying?" This is spacious. It gives him room to step in, and if he does, he'll feel like it was his idea. Deborah swears by this one because it hits at a deeper level of connection. It tells him you feel comfortable imagining him in the quiet parts of your life, the small, real, unscripted moments, the kind that stick. What makes this phrase even more potent is its timing. Use it after a quiet moment, when things aren't busy, when the day is winding down, when you're soaking in the kind of moment that feels personal. Those soft pockets of the day are where emotional connection grows fastest, because they're unguarded, they're slow, and that's where your words become more than just noise. They become comfort. It also communicates a rare kind of confidence. You're not pretending not to care. You're not playing games. You're standing in your own warmth and saying, "This moment mattered, and I thought of you." You show him he's part of your inner landscape. That's vulnerability with backbone. Even better, it gives him the freedom to be real too. Maybe he says, "I wish I was there too." Or maybe he just sends a photo of the view from where he is. Either way, you've opened a window. And in healthy connection, the windows we open are often more powerful than the doors we slam. Phrase number 4. Tell me what you think. You matter here. This one may not sound like it belongs in a romance script at first glance, but don't underestimate it. It's less about butterflies and more about gravity, emotional gravity, because when used with sincerity, this phrase draws someone closer in a way that sticks. Imagine this. You're texting him after sending an article that made you think of him, or you're debating between 2 outfits for a big dinner, or maybe you've just been wrestling with a decision that matters to you, and you say, "Tell me what you think. Your opinion really matters to me." Now pause. Let that settle. It's not dramatic, it's not flirty, but it's incredibly powerful. Why? Because it taps into 2 things nearly every man quietly longs for, whether he says it out loud or not. 1, to feel respected for what he brings to the table, and 2, to feel like he matters in your world. And when someone tells you that your thoughts, your insight, your presence make a difference, that's intimacy, that's trust, that's something so much deeper than "you're cute" or "thinking of you." This kind of message tells him, "I see you as more than a distraction or a flirt. I see you as someone whose judgment I respect." And that's rare. Most men don't hear that, even in relationships. Deborah has seen this create major emotional traction. She once sent it after a casual link about design styles, and his response? Immediate, thoughtful, engaged. He didn't just feel noticed, he felt significant. When a man feels like his input is valued, not just listened to out of courtesy, but really considered, it builds something called emotional equity. It's what makes him want to invest, show up, and engage, because he sees that his presence changes your experience, not just romantically, but intellectually, mentally, in daily life. And what's amazing about this phrase is that it works at every stage. Whether it's early dating or 10 years into a relationship, it says, "I respect how you think." And in a world where most interactions are built around impressing or entertaining each other, this one cuts through the noise. It invites collaboration, partnership. Try this with something small, a recipe, a book choice, an outfit, or go deeper with something big. "I've been thinking about switching jobs. Tell me what you think. You always offer a view I hadn't considered." That doesn't just open dialogue, it opens intimacy. And that's what real connection is. Not just sharing moments, but shaping them together. So why do these 4 little phrases hit so hard? It's not just about clever wording or some flirtation hack. They land because they mean something. They tap into this emotional resonance that's rare in a world full of surface-level chatter. They don't feel like pickup lines. They feel like little bridges, moments of honesty wrapped in a compliment, invitations into closeness, not performances for approval. They're personal. They stir up curiosity, admiration, maybe even a little longing. They hint, not shout, at connection, whether emotional or physical. And most importantly, they invite someone in. They make him want to respond, not just react. And that's where the magic lives. Deborah once told me something that stuck. The first time she started using these phrases, she noticed how often they came back to her. Days after a conversation, he'd say something like, "You know when you told me only I could make that meeting fun? That's still in my head." And when someone remembers what you say, not just the words, but how they made him feel, that's pure gold. But here's where people get stuck. How do you actually say these things without sounding like you read them off a Pinterest board? It's simpler than you think. It's all about timing and tone. The goal isn't to drop all 4 lines in one conversation like you're trying to cast a spell. It's more like seasoning. Sprinkle one in when it feels real, when it fits the mood, when there's something worth highlighting. Let's say you just had a fun hike with him. You're texting the next day and casually say, "Only you could make climbing that hill feel like a secret adventure." He laughs, maybe makes a joke about the playlist. Boom, now you're both back in that memory. Then you follow with something like, "Tell me, what was your favorite song from that day? I keep hearing it in my head." He answers. Conversation deepens. And now you've opened this little emotional loop that lingers. A few days later, when the weekend rolls around, maybe you say, "If I'm honest, I wish you were here right now. That lookout spot would be perfect again." You're not begging. You're not pushing. You're just saying what you feel in a way that makes it safe for him to feel something too. That's what Deborah meant when she said these lines aren't just words. They're emotional accelerators. They don't force connection. They invite it, slowly, genuinely, and without pressure. Now here's the thing. These phrases, they're not tricks. They're not for mind games or manipulation. And if that's your intention, they're going to fall flat. Or worse, they'll make everything feel off. But if your goal is real connection, if you're actually tuned into the person you're talking to and not just trying to win something, then these lines become something powerful. They let you show up with intention. They let you be felt. Because when it's all said and done, most people won't remember every compliment they've ever received, but they will remember how it made them feel. Whether it gave them butterflies or brought comfort, or made them smile when they weren't expecting it. That's what these phrases do. They don't just land in the inbox, they land in the heart. Let me leave you with something important, a little reality check I've learned the hard way. If someone genuinely doesn't reciprocate your energy, these phrases won't magically change that. They're not spells. They're not some backdoor into someone's heart. What they do is amplify what's already there. They take chemistry and give it clarity. They take connection and give it depth, but they can't create something from nothing. So if he's not emotionally open, if the conversations always feel one-sided, if your texts go unanswered more often than not, these lines won't fix that. They're not designed to trick someone into caring. They're meant to bring out what's already alive between you. But when that spark is mutual, when there's already warmth in the room, these phrases turn it into a fire. They change the way he hears your words. They make ordinary moments feel memorable, and they elevate the emotional frequency of your conversations in a way that lingers long after the message is read. And honestly, I still use them myself. Not like a script, not like I'm following some master plan. They've just become part of how I speak when I really see someone. Sometimes, after a disagreement we've moved through gently, I'll say something like, "I don't know how you do it, but you make navigating conflict seem easy." It's not flattery, it's truth. Or out of nowhere, maybe when I'm feeling soft and nostalgic, I'll write, "If I'm really honest, I wish we could time travel back to our first lazy Sunday." No agenda, just a feeling. There are nights where I'll send, "Tell me what you think. Your advice means the world to me, not because I need a decision made, but because I genuinely value the way his mind works." And sometimes, after a simple story that made me laugh harder than it should have, I'll grin at my phone and type, "Only you could make that moment feel epic." None of those things are calculated. They come from living next to someone, noticing them, listening between the lines, and loving the way they show up in the world. And when the text sends, and the buzz returns, not just a reply, but a feeling, you know it landed. You know it meant something. And that's the goal. Not to impress, not to win, but to connect for real. So, pick your phrase. Test it out. Maybe start with the, "I don't know how you do it," and see how he responds. Drop a comment and let me know which line surprised you, which felt right, or which feels weird. I love hearing how these land in real life, not just hypotheticals. If this resonated, hit that like button and subscribe for more heart-first relationship tips. Maybe send this to a friend who could use the boost too. And remember, sincerity is your best strategy. Use these phrases not to play someone, but to show what you feel in a way they hear.